In a world of titans, where thunder lizards shook the ground, one creature defied all the rules. It wasn't the biggest. It wasn't the fastest. Its brain was no larger than a plum. So how did this walking fortress, armed with nature's most bizarre armor, not only survive, but thrive? For over a century, the puzzle of its plates remained locked in stone. Now, we are breaking the code, using artificial intelligence to rebuild it, bone by digital bone. We will test its weapons, unlock the secret of its armor, and resurrect the truth. It's time to meet the real Stegosaurus. You are standing in the Badlands of Wyoming, 150 million years after the fact. The wind whispers across dry earth, but beneath your feet lies a giant, not whole, not pristine, but a scatter of fossilized bones, like pieces of a divine puzzle thrown to the ground. This is how the story begins. When its first remains were unearthed in the 1870s, during the feverish bone wars, paleontologists were simply baffled. They found huge, flat, bony plates mixed with vertebrae and ribs. What could they be? The first guess from the legendary Othniel Charles Marsh was that they were like shingles on a roof, lying flat to form a kind of shell. He named it Stegosaurus, the roofed lizard. It was a powerful name for a creature that seemed more like a fantasy than a product of evolution. You can almost feel their frustration. Here you have a creature the size of a bus, yet its skull is shockingly small, holding a brain that, for its massive body, is one of the tiniest of all known dinosaurs. It's an anatomical paradox. How could something so large operate with a processor so small? Then you have the plates themselves. Hundreds of pounds of bone arranged in 2 staggering rows along its back. They are too thin for conventional armor, yet too vast for simple decoration. And at the other end, the business end, you find the Thagomizer, 4 terrifying spikes, each up to 3 feet long, jutting from a powerful muscular tail. It's a weapon of brutal simplicity. For a century, our understanding was frozen in this state of confusion, based on crushed and incomplete skeletons. We arranged and rearranged the plates, arguing over their function. But now, you don't have to guess. You can see scientists moving across a quarry floor, not with plaster and picks, but with devices that look like they belong in a sci-fi film. This is photogrammetry. With a simple high-resolution camera, they take hundreds of pictures of a single fossil fragment from every conceivable angle. Sophisticated software then stitches these images together, creating a perfect, 3-dimensional digital replica, accurate to the sub-millimeter. Lasers scan the contours of each bone, capturing every crack and texture. Suddenly, the scattered puzzle pieces exist in a virtual space. On the screen, a paleontologist can now pick up a digital vertebra, rotate it, and see precisely how it connects to the next. They can take the massive plates and test every hypothesis for their arrangement without ever touching the priceless, fragile originals. The flat, shingle-like roof theory is discarded. The single-row mohawk is tested and fails. Finally, the iconic, staggered 2-row configuration clicks into place, validated by the digital model. The ancient blueprint is revealed not by guesswork, but by data. This is not just a skeleton. It's the first step in a digital resurrection. The digital skeleton on the screen is a masterpiece of anatomy, but it's a creature out of time. To truly understand it, you have to rebuild its world. You have to travel back 150 million years, to the late Jurassic period. Forget the dark, steamy, singular jungle you see in movies. The reality, which we are now uncovering, is far more complex and dynamic. You are now standing on the Morrison Formation, a vast floodplain that stretches across what will one day become the American West. The air is warm and thick, but it carries the scent of pine from distant conifers, not tropical orchids. The ground is dominated by immense prairies of ferns, punctuated by groves of cycads and ginkgo trees. There are no flowers. There is no grass. It's a world of greens and browns under a sun that feels ancient. For decades, we imagined this world as static. But a revolution is happening, not with a pickaxe, but with a laser. You see scientists drilling microscopic samples from the enamel of a dinosaur tooth, or from the sedimentary rock where it was buried. They are hunting for chemical ghosts, isotopes. Think of isotopes of elements like oxygen and carbon as ancient thermometers and rain gauges locked in the stone. The specific ratio of these isotopes tells a story. It reveals the average temperature of the water the dinosaur drank. It tells you if the seasons were extreme, shifting from a time of monsoonal rains that turned the plains into a lush green buffer, to a long, punishing dry season where water vanished and food became scarce. This is where our digital resurrection takes a quantum leap. All of this isotopic data, millions of data points from across the entire Morrison formation, is fed into powerful supercomputer, artificial intelligence models designed to simulate global climate systems, churn through this information. The AI doesn't just give you an average temperature, it builds the world in motion. You can watch on a screen as the seasons turn. You see the rivers swell and flood the fern prairies during the wet season, creating a paradise for herbivores. Then, you watch the landscape transform during the dry season, the rivers shrinking, the vegetation dying back, forcing vast herds to migrate in search of sustenance. This isn't an artist's guess. It's a data-driven reconstruction of a lost climate. And into this simulated world, you can now place the creatures. You see your Stegosaurus, not alone, but as part of a breathtaking ecosystem of giants. Towering over everything are the sauropods. You see the long necks of Diplodocus sweeping through the low ferns, while the colossal Brachiosaurus reaches high into the conifer canopy. They are the skyscrapers of this ancient city, eating at a level Stegosaurus cannot reach. This is key to how they all survived. They weren't competing for the same meal. Your Stegosaurus is a low browser, perfectly adapted to feast on the endless carpets of ferns and young cycads. But this world is not a peaceful garden. Lurking in the tree lines are the predators. You see an 8-ton Allosaurus, the lion of the Jurassic, its massive skull filled with blade-like teeth. You spot the menacing horn of a Ceratosaurus as it stalks a smaller herbivore. For your Stegosaurus, every moment is a calculation of risk. Every trip to a watering hole, every search for fresh vegetation, is a life or death gamble. In this simulated Jurassic world, you can now follow the Stegosaurus through its day. Its life is a constant quest for fuel. To power a body that weighs up to 5 tons, you would think it needs a highly efficient feeding apparatus. Yet, when you look at the skull, it's a contradiction. The mouth is a narrow, toothless beak, perfect for snipping soft ferns and cycads. But the teeth deeper inside are small, simple pegs. They weren't for grinding or chewing, merely for shredding vegetation before swallowing it whole. How did it process the tough, fibrous plants? The leading theory is that, like many modern birds, it swallowed stones, known as gastroliths. You can imagine its gut as a geological cement mixer, churning these stones with the plant matter, breaking it down and extracting every last nutrient. It's a low-tech solution for a low-browsing lifestyle. But survival isn't just about eating. It's about not being eaten. And for a Stegosaurus, threats are everywhere. This brings us back to its most famous and most misunderstood features, the plates. For a century, we drew them as impenetrable shields, a coat of armor. But a closer look at the fossils, enhanced by digital analysis, reveals they were likely a terrible defense. They are thin and riddled with channels for blood vessels. A direct attack from an Allosaurus would have shattered them. So what were they for? The blood vessels offer a clue. By pumping blood through these huge, bony billboards, The Stegosaurus could have used them as giant radiators to cool its massive body under the Jurassic sun. Or, perhaps flushed with blood, they became a vibrant display of color, a way to intimidate rivals or attract a mate. They weren't a shield, they were a signal. The real defense was at the other end, the Thagomizer. And to understand its true power, you have to see beyond the bone. You watch as a paleontologist places an Allosaurus vertebra into a CT scanner. The X-rays slice through the fossil, layer by layer, revealing its internal structure on a screen. And there, deep in the bone, is a puncture wound. A wound that has healed over, meaning the Allosaurus survived the encounter. Scientists use digital calipers on the screen to measure the hole. The size, the shape, the angle. It's a perfect match for a Stegosaurus tail spike. This is the fossil equivalent of a ballistics report, a smoking gun that proves these two giants didn't just coexist, they fought. Now, we can test that fight. Using the complete digital skeleton, engineers create a biomechanical model. They digitally reconstruct the powerful muscles of the tail, anchoring them to the hips and vertebrae based on the scars left on the fossil bones. With a click of a mouse, they can run a simulation. The virtual Stegosaurus comes to life. The model shows the tail was far more flexible than once thought, capable of whipping sideways at incredible speed. The physics engine calculates the force of the impact as the digital spike pierces the predator's side. The result is staggering. It wasn't a clumsy defensive swing. It was a precise, lethal weapon that could inflict deep, devastating wounds. The Stegosaurus wasn't a passive victim waiting for an attack. It was an armed combatant, a living fortress that could actively defend itself, turning its entire rear half into a no-go zone for the apex predators of its age. Why? Well, you've seen its world and its weapons, but to truly resurrect the Stegosaurus, you must enter its mind. And that leads us to one of paleontology's most enduring myths. When early paleontologists examined the hip region, they found a cavity in the spinal column many times larger than the space for the brain in its skull. The idea was born of a second brain, a nerve center in the rump to control its massive back half. It's a compelling image, but it's a fantasy. Modern biology offers a far more elegant solution. This space didn't hold a brain. It likely housed a glycogen body. You find the same structure in birds today. It's not a processor, it's a biological battery pack, a rich store of energy likely used to power the explosive movements of that lethal tail. The thinking was all done, however slowly, by that one small brain in its head. This leaves us with the greatest remaining enigma, the true purpose of those magnificent plates. Were they radiators or were they billboards? For over a century, scientists have argued, with evidence pointing in both directions. This is a problem too complex, with too many variables, for the human mind to solve alone. This is a job for machine learning. You can imagine a vast digital library containing every known detail about Stegosaurus plates, their precise dimensions, their thickness, the intricate web blood vessel grooves etched onto their surface, even their position on the back. Scientists feed all of this information into a deep learning algorithm. Then they give the AI data from hundreds of living animals, the structure of an elephant's ear used for cooling, the internal matrix of a moose's antlers used for display and combat. The AI's task is to find the hidden patterns, to see the connections we can. It analyzes the vascularity. Is it optimized for rapid heat exchange, or for flushing with blood for a short, vibrant display? It compares the growth patterns. Do they grow like a functional tool or an ornamental one? After processing millions of possibilities, the AI presents an answer, not with bias, but with statistical probability. The conclusion is now clearer than ever. The primary function was display. The plates were a statement. They made the Stegosaurus look bigger and more intimidating to a predator like Allosaurus. They advertised its health and strength to potential mates. They were a unique identifier, a family crest for its species on the crowded Jurassic plains. While they may have offered some secondary cooling, their true purpose was to be seen. The Stegosaurus was a staggering success, a lineage that dominated the landscape for millions of years. But the dynamic world that the AI models helped us build was its ultimate undoing. The climate shifted, the fern prairies receded, and the world this specialized survivor was built for vanished, consigning it to history. For so long, that history was a silent one, told only by silent bones. But you have seen that is no longer true. We began with scattered fragments, a puzzle that baffled the brightest minds. Using light and lasers, we built a digital blueprint. With chemical ghosts and AI, we resurrected its lost world. With biomechanical models, we tested its strength and unleashed the power of its Thagomizer. And with machine learning, we finally decoded the message of its plates. The creature's story, from its struggle for survival to its epic reign, has been unlocked by the story of our own discovery. The Stegosaurus is more than a fossil now. It lives again as a stream of data, a collection of pixels, a simulation running on a supercomputer. Is the new frontier of paleontology. We are becoming digital time travelers, using technology not just to see the past, but to bring its greatest inhabitants back to life. The age of dinosaurs may be over, but the age of their digital resurrection has just begun.